Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to the Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast with Aris, Blakeney, episode 12, recording here on Sunday, November 10th, 2019. Find us on all major streaming platforms. On today's episode, Aris breaks down NFL Week 10, everything you need to know, bust that slump, and get you in those fantasy football playoffs. Without further ado, enjoy the show.
Man, oh man, another week is in the books. Another disappointing fantasy performance from my friend's league. Another disappointing, unfortunately, for my Chargers as well. But, overall, it was an awesome week of football. Awesome fantasy games as well. Some shootouts, some defensive battles. It was a pretty good week. We had some upsets. The Dolphins are so bad they can't even tank right, apparently, because, if you're tanking for Tua, why win games? Makes no sense to me. But yeah, last place in my friends league. I shouldn't be promoting that as this is a fantasy podcast and I am supposed to be the quote unquote expert, but I'm in last place in my friends league. This is week 10 of the 10 weeks. 7 of those weeks have either been against the highest score or the second highest score in the league. So if you play me, I am busting your slump, apparently. Even the guy in second to last place has broken 100 points once or twice, and then against me put up 140 points. It's a super low scoring league and everybody's just whooping my butt in that league. But I can talk about that confidently, and knowing that I can talk about that because in my other 2 leagues, my work league and my family league, I am in first place with the most points scored. So yeah, I'm in last place in my friends league, but guess what? You can't be perfect in all your leagues. I'm 2 for 3. Chargers suck this year, so I'm essentially 500 because them damn Chargers. I'm going a little bit of a tangent here. There should have been a roughing the passer call on that last play because Philip Rivers got smacked in the head. That has been called all year. Hell, Dak Prescott was running the ball against Green Bay in week 4 or 5 whenever they played. Running the ball, he gets tapped in the head, roughing the passer call. Philip Rivers gets smacked in the face, no call. These, dude, I swear they hate us in the reffing community. But you know what? That's enough of me going on a tangent. Let's actually break down some of these games. And yes, we'll start with a Thursday night game because, yeah, them damn Chargers, they messed it up, bro. It's hard to love them. It's hard to hate them. I'm probably the 6th or 7th fan, and that's all we have. There's 5 of us. We have a meeting every Tuesday, so yeah, it's just what it is. But, the Chargers lost a terrible game, penalty-filled game. It was just penalties left and right. It was a sloppy game, but we lost it 24-26 in Oakland. The last meeting between the Chargers and the Raiders in Oakland. The next time they play will be in either Los Angeles or Vegas. I don't know where they're going to play that first game, but more than likely they will be in Vegas next year. And hopefully that $5 billion stadium gets finished up and hopefully the Chargers play there next year. Who knows? There's a lot of drama with that Chargers and Rams stadium. But Rivers, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 terrible interceptions. It should have been 5, but 2 of them got called back. Actually, should have been 6. 2 got called back. 1 just got dropped. So it should have been 6 interceptions. Melvin Gordon is back. He is a RB1 going forward. 22 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. He added 1 catch for 25 yards. Eckler is still in the RB1, RB2 conversation. 6 carries, 19 yards, 2 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. The offense is better with Eckler on the field. Hell, even Gordon had a lot of his carries with Eckler in that flex position as that split out wide, H-back, stuff like that. But on the other side, the receiver side, actually, Keenan Allen, another disappointing. He kind of has this. He either starts really slow in the middle of the season, peaks, and then goes back down, or starts slow, peaks in the middle of the season, and then goes back down. Last year, it was that way. It was slow start to the season. Killed it for 3 weeks where he had, I think he set a record for 3 consecutive games, 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, and then kind of just falls off. And then this year it seems like started out for the first 4 weeks, he was number 1 in receptions, touchdowns, and receiving yards, falling off a bit, but the volume is still there. So you have to start him as your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, just depending on who you have on your team. But he's still right there, borderline as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, but he had 8 catches, 68 yards, no touchdowns, but added 1 carry for 18 yards on a jet sweep. Mike Williams followed up his 100-yard game with 2 catches for 55 yards. He's going to be more of that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 role. Hunter Henry, 4 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown. He's going to be a tight end number 1. Since coming back from his injury, he is number 1 in catches, number 1 in targets, and number 1 in receiving yards. Pretty much just fire up everybody on the Chargers team. Rivers, as a desperation throw, he's probably more a quarterback 2 than a quarterback 1, but everybody else you can definitely start, especially with some bye weeks next week. There's 4 teams on bye, and then the Chargers week 12 go on their bye. So that's next week against Kansas City. Their defense isn't, all that good. So definitely start all these guys. And then on the Oakland side, Carr, 218 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Josh Jacobs, 16 carries, 71 yards, 1 touchdown. And then he added 3 catches for 30 yards. I mean, the Chargers pretty much had him all bottled up all game long, and then he broke off for like a 25-yard touchdown to win the game. So he was pretty bottled up, which was pretty nice because the Chargers have let, I think it was 120 yards per game up to that point. And then Tyrell Williams, 3 catches, 25 yards, no touchdowns. So this is the 5th game in a row now for Tyrell Williams with 3 catches, and his 2nd game in a row where he did not catch a touchdown. So like I said, when he was in the middle of that 5 games for 5 touchdowns, where his touchdown regression was going to come, bam, it's came. It's more likely that he's going to get the 3 catches than he is going to get a touchdown. So he's going to be a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 2 on the low side. And then Waller, 3 catches, 40 yards. He's still a tight end number 1. You kind of got to, especially next week, how they get Cincinnati, who is blowing for Burrows. What other word can we say instead of blowing for Burrows? Has to start with a B. Balking. No, it's more of a baseball term, balk. If somebody comes up with something better, go ahead and tweet it over, DM us on Instagram, shoot us a comment on Instagram, something other than something that's better than blowing for Burrows, because right now they are the worst team in the league. They have the Jets coming up. They have the Dolphins coming up. So if they want that first round pick or that first overall pick, they have the right track to get it. But Williams, like I said, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2. Josh Jacobs, of course, he's going to be your high-end running back 2, low-end running back 1. Carr will definitely be a streaming option next week. He's in that quarterback 2 range. And then Waller, tight end number 1, of course, going forward. So that's going to wrap it up for that terrible, terrible penalty-filled game on Thursday night. Let's get into these Sunday games that were actually pretty good. Let's just hop right into it. Let's start with this Cincinnati and Baltimore game that was a absolute rout. But Baltimore got up so much, or they were just having fun, where they brought in their Heisman package, where they had 3 people in the backfield that all won a Heisman. You had RG3 from Baylor. I don't know what year. I think it was 2011. Lamar Jackson 3 years ago, and then Mark Ingram was like 10 years ago, I believe, for Alabama. All 3 of them were in the backfield, and they ran the play. They called it their Heisman package. I'm pretty sure you've seen the memes and whatnot on there, but they were up so much that they were just messing around. But Baltimore won this one 49-13. Lamar Jackson had a better day passing than he has in the past. It seems like he only has these really good passing games against the terrible defenses, Miami, Arizona, and now Cincinnati. Whereas if you have a pretty decent defense, his passing is terrible, but he always makes up for it in the run game. 223 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but then added 7 runs for 65 yards and a touchdown. The bad part about this is he's eating into Mark Ingram's work. So Mark Ingram is that mid-range RB2 where he has potential to get into that RB1 conversation, but he's going to be RB2 just because of how much Lamar Jackson eats into his workload. Ingram finished the day 9 carries, 34 yards, and a touchdown. They really didn't have to do much because their defense annihilated Cincinnati. I think, their defense scored more points than Cincinnati did. They had 2 touchdowns. So Hollywood Brown came back, 4 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. It's his best game since like week 3 He's been hobbled a little bit, so you like to see that. Next week, they get Houston, where Houston, you can pass on them. Expect another boomer bust day for him. He's going to be in that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 range, but definitely boom or bust. On Cincinnati's side, Finley didn't really do much. The only people you were probably starting were Boyd, 6 catches for 62 yards. He's going to be in that wide receiver 3 range. And then Mixon, who has been very, very disappointing, but so is this whole offense. He's going to be in that running back 3 range, running back 2 range, but he finally had a good day. 30 carries, 114 yards, added 2 catches for 37 yards. So Baltimore gets Houston, pretty much fire up all those guys. Oh, Mark Andrews, I forgot about him, the tight end for Baltimore, 6 catches, 53 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like I said at the beginning of the year, he's going to lead this team in receiving yards. He looks like he's fully healthy now from that foot injury at the beginning of the year, but fire pretty much all those guys up. And then on the Cincinnati side, I might fire Mixon up in that flex position on your team, but again, he's going to be in that running back 3 area. Cleveland righted their ship. They finally got a win. They've had all this hype all year long and have not lived up to it, but they finally got a win against a pretty decent team. Buffalo 16, Cleveland 19. Cleveland gets Pittsburgh next week, so I think this is a short-lived celebration for them. And then Buffalo gets Miami, so hey, Miami, your 2-game win streak is probably up. Josh Allen, 266 through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but added 6 carries for 28 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, you could start him without starting anybody else on this team just because of he's going to get you those pass yards, and he's going to get you at least 2 touchdowns during the game. 1 rushing, 1 passing, 2 passing, no rushing, 2 rushing, no passing. So he's pretty much in that low-end quarterback 1, high-end QB 2. Singletary is pretty much taken over as the back to own here. Finally, I've been projecting it all year. It's finally starting to happen, so I do sound like an expert now because he's starting to take over. But 8 carries, 42 yards, 3 catches for 8 yards. Gore, 5 carries, 12 yards, 1 catch for 4 yards. So Singletary is the better back now. He's outperforming Frank Gore. He's getting more work than Frank Gore. So ride Singletary as that low-end RB2, high-end RB3, and Frank Gore, desperation flex, streamer type person. John Brown and Cole Beasley, those are probably the only 2 receivers you're possibly playing. Bye-week fillers, streamers, stuff like that. You can't really rely on them. But Brown, 5 catches, 77 yards. Beasley, 4 catches, 74 yards. So like I said, streaming options. Hopefully you don't have to rely on those guys. And then on the Cleveland side, Baker Mayfield, 238, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's even almost unplayable at points because he's just had a terrible season. He has definitely hit that sophomore slump that everybody so eloquently talks about all the time for second-year players. And then running back-wise, we're starting to get back into a weird backfield where some teams that I just hate. Some offenses are good enough to host 2 running backs. We'll kind of see how Cleveland handles the return of Kareem Hunt. But Chubb had 22 total touches, 20 carries, 116 yards on the ground. He added 2 catches for 5 yards. Kareem Hunt, 4 carries, 30 yards, 7 catches for 44 yards. So it looks like he's maybe eating into Dontrell's work, the receiving back, a little bit more than Nick Chubb's work, which is definitely a good sign for Nick Chubb owners because you don't want to see your number 1 running back on your team, so where you drafted him. You don't want to see him starting to lose work. But we'll continue to monitor the situation. Hunt is going to be RB3 going forward until further notice. Chubb's still going to be in that RB1 conversation going forward. And then Jarvis Landry, 9 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Baker was force-feeding OBJ and Landry. OBJ ended with 5 catches for 57 yards. Odell had, I believe, 12 targets. Landry had 10 targets. So he was forcing the ball to them. OBJ is going to probably be on the lower end of these 2. High-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. And then Landry is going to be in that mid or low to mid wide receiver 2 area for you guys. That's going to wrap it up for that game. Let's go into the team that I hate the most, the Tennessee Titans. In my pick'em pool, I am, week 10 now. I am 0-10 picking these teams. I pick them to win, they lose. I pick them to lose, they win. I go with my heart and think they're going to win, so I go with my heart, I lose. I think they're going to win. I go against my heart because I'm like, yeah, they're going to win this week. Nope. I pick them to lose. Yeah, no. It doesn't matter. I cannot pick this team to save my life this year. If you had a gun to my head and told me to pick who's going to win next week, they're on a bye next week. So there, I get an automatic win. If you tell me to pick them in week 12, pick who wins, bro, I don't know. I'm throwing up my hands and just saying, oh, well, I've lived a good life because I cannot pick these guys whatsoever. I picked Kansas City to win, and they ended up losing to Tennessee 35-32. Mahomes is back, though. If you have Mahomes on your team, hey, man, he had a really good game. 446, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The funny part is, before the game, Mahomes' mom tweeted out that she had grounded Patrick from running the ball. And guess what? He listened to his mom because he didn't have a single rush attempt. So, I mean, he's going to be high-end quarterback one moving forward. And then let's get into this running back situation. Shady McCoy was a healthy scratch. Nobody really saw it coming. He has had some costly fumbles in the past couple games, so maybe that played into it. But Damian Williams didn't help out his case because guess what? Man had to fumble himself. So we'll see how this plays out going forward. But he had 19 carries, 77 yards, 5 catches for 32 yards. So he did have a pretty decent day. If McCoy still sits, he's going to be low to mid RB2 just because the offense he plays in is so explosive. He's going to have a super high ceiling, but with as volatile as his backfield is, he's going to have a pretty low floor as well. Tyreek Hill, though, is going to have a high floor and a high ceiling just because of the player he is, but he had 11 catches, 157 yards, 1 touchdown. He added 1 carry for 3 yards. They are going to get him the ball. Wide receiver 1, without a doubt. Why would you even sit this man? Kelsey, 7 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Tight end number 1 going forward. And then on the Tennessee side, Tannehill, he's been a pretty decent streamer, quarterback 2 range. 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 3 carries for 37 yards. You always forget that he is super athletic because he was a receiver in college. And then his last year in college, he switched to playing quarterback for Texas A&M. You always forget that he is athletic and can get out of the pocket and run and scramble. They're on a bye next week, so unfortunately you can't really stream him. But he's going to be a decent streaming option week 12 when you have some more teams on a bye. And then Derrick Henry, he's going to have a super high ceiling, but he's going to have a disappointing floor for a running back. You probably drafted him as your running back number 2. He's going to be in that area, but he can always jump up to that RB1 echelon. He had 23 carries, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 2 catches for 3 yards. So he's going to be your higher end RB2, but he can bump into that RB1 conversation every now and again, just depending on who they play. Next game is going to be battle for quote-unquote New York, but they play in New Jersey, so I don't know why they're called New York when they should be called the New Jersey Giants and the New Jersey Jets. But that's semantics. I mean, hell, Chargers right now playing Carson, which is a suburb of L.A., Dallas plays in Arlington. So, I mean, heck, their teams are never actually in the city that they claim. So it is what it is, I guess. But battle for New York. Giants lost this one 27-34 to the Jets. Danny Dimes is back for this week at least. 308 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 3 carries for 20 yards. Surprising turn of events. He led the team in rushing. Yeah, that's right, Saquon Barkley owners. I'm sorry. Saquon did not have a good game. 13 carries for 1 yard, added 5 catches for 30 yards. Is not that good. I mean, they get a bye. Saquon has said he's not 100%, so he's still kind of battling through that ankle injury. Wakanda actually didn't do him wonders, apparently. He lied to us. So he's still going to be an RB1. He's one of the best backs in the league. You might just have to slide him down to an RB2, unfortunately, because this offense is kind of terrible. Slayton, though, 10 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. If Sterling Shepard is out, I might just start streaming this guy. I mean, he's filled in pretty admirably. He has 4 touchdowns on the year now, 2 games of 2 touchdowns apiece. So he's going to be a decent streaming option, bye week filler, because there are 2 weeks now. I believe the next 2 weeks have 4 teams each. And then Golden Tate, especially if you're in PPR. Today didn't have a PPR day, but if you are a PPR player, Tate is gold. He's going to be at wide receiver 2 range. Today he had 4 catches, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he's a yak monster, yards after catch. He always catches those shallow passes and just takes them to the house. So he's going to be a really good player for you going forward. On the Jets side, Sam Darnold finally didn't see ghosts for a whole game. 230 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, added 3 carries for 25 yards, and another touchdown. Le'Veon Bell is going to be in that low RB2, high RB3 just because the Jets are terrible as well. But today he actually saved his day because he scored a touchdown, but 18 carries, 34 yards, and a touchdown, 3 catches for 34 yards. Unfortunately, that 60 yardage total is roughly what you're going to be getting from him. That's why I say he's going to be in that RB3 range, because if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's just going to tank your day. And then Jamison Crowder is really the only receiver to trust on this team, especially PPR-wise. He had 14 targets the other day with 8 catches, but today 5 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Robbie Anderson's going to be a huge boomer bust, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3. Crowder's going to be in that wide receiver 3 for standard leagues, wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 1 in PPR days, just depending on how many catches he actually gets that day. He's going to be roughly around 80 to 90 yards a game, but it's going to be those catches where he's going to be making all of his points. He's going to add you typically 7 to 9 points a game with how many catches he draws in. And then, said about it earlier, Miami sucks so bad that they can't even tank right. No longer tanking for Tua because they have 2 wins in a row now. I don't know what they're going to do. They have enough draft capital to get back into the number 1 spot to draft Tua. But I might just wait because Cincinnati might want Herbert, Burrow, Fromm, and one of these other guys that fits how they play football. They don't really like those super mobile quarterbacks. All their quarterbacks have been more of pocket passers. So they might be able to get to pick 2, pick 3, just depending on who's there. But Miami won 16-12. Granted, it was against a backup quarterback. If Jacoby Brissett was in, I do think they would have lost that game. But Fitz magic was more like Fitz magic. 169 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, but carried the ball 4 times for 32 yards and ran for a touchdown. Fear the Beard came out. You always forget that guy can run over DBs, and it's hilarious every time he does. But really the only other person that you would have played for the Dolphins would have been Parker. 5 catches for 69 yards. Gronk loves that yardage total, but fantasy owners do not. Stream if you have to, but I don't like either of these teams or this Miami team. I don't like any players really on there. If you have to stream somebody, then I understand, but I would probably stay away unless they have a super plus matchup. Next week they get Buffalo, so probably not a plus matchup for them. On the Indy side, Hoyer, 204, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Hopefully Jacoby comes back next week because everybody has had a knockdown. Marlon Mack, 19 carries, 74 yards, 1 catch for 8 yards. He's going to be RB3, RB2 area. He would be an RB1 if he was involved in the pass game more, which he is not, which is super annoying. It's going to be Nyheim Hines who's going to get all that passing work. Super, super annoying. Ebron, there's reports that he was super unhappy with his role. I was hoping that there was going to be a squeaky wheel gets the grease today, but 5 catches for 56 yards, so unfortunately did not. But it was Andrew Luck's favorite player ever, Jack Doyle. 3 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Against Jacksonville next week, of course, Mack, definitely start. Hoyer, I'd probably avoid. And then Pascal, wide receiver 3. Ebron and Doyle are going to be in your tight end 2 areas. So I would just kind of stay away from those guys. Are the Rams done? Are they still hungover from the Super Bowl? Because, yep, they lost again. Rams 12, Pittsburgh Steelers, surprisingly 5-4. Second place in the AFC North. I don't think they'll catch Baltimore, but hey, they might be a sneaky team to sneak into them playoffs as a 6th seed. Pittsburgh won this one 17-12. Pittsburgh gets Cleveland next week. Pittsburgh's defense has been pretty freaking good. Sneaky good defense. I can see them shutting down Cleveland next week, so I would definitely go possibly starting Pittsburgh's defense next week against Cleveland. But Goff didn't look too good. 243, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Gurley still not getting that full workload. He's still having Brown and Henderson work into his workload. 12 carries for 73 yards. Goff, quarterback 2. Gurley might even be running back 3 area with potential to get up into that RB1 conversation, but he's going to be slotted as a high-end RB3. Cooper Kupp, you killed my fantasy day. Granted, I lost to the highest scoring player again this week, so it wouldn't have mattered even if you had a good game, but you had 4 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 rushing attempts, 0 yards, and 0 touchdowns. So, yeah, most disappointing day. No, you know what? David Johnson still probably has the most disappointing day with that. He's going to play. One play, he's out. Not even injured, didn't get hit really, so yeah. But still, whatever. Robert Woods, 7 catches, 95 yards. Gerald Everett, 8 catches, 68 yards. Both of them, especially Everett with Cook still being out, I could still see Everett still gaining work, and possibly, depending on how he does, he could still see some work after Cooks comes back. But usually when Cooks is back, he tends to take a step back in his production. So he's going to be in that tight end number 2 area. Robert Woods is going to be a high ceiling just because of how the Rams offense generally can put up some yardage, put up some points. So he'll be a wide receiver 3, but can get into that wide receiver 1 echelon. Cooper Kupp still is going to be a wide receiver 1 going forward. On the Pittsburgh side, Kyle Rudolph, 242, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Low-end QB2, high-end QB3. Jalen Samuels, another disappointing day for all those people that started him. 14 carries, 29 yards, 3 catches, 11 yards. If James Conner comes back, Samuels gets to take a step back again, and then Conner's going to step back into his workhorse role. Samuels, I wouldn't even mess with him if Conner is out next week. Everybody's saying he's going to be a volume-based running back too, but, he's losing work to a guy who used to play defense and then some kid that I'd never even heard of this week. So I would definitely stay away from him, even though they say his upside's really high, but he's just not getting all the work that they keep predicting. James Washington is probably, with Kyle Rudolph under center, he's probably the better option of the receivers just because they played in college together. He has more of a relationship with him. 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown, but Juju still does lead the team in catches and yards. He's just had more boom games than Washington is. Washington's been more steady. Juju, 3 catches for 44 yards. Juju's going to be in that probably low-end to high-end 3 area. Washington's going to be in that mid to low 3 area. So, in the most surprising news of the day goes to Matthew Stafford has a fractured back and he's out. Took everybody by storm this morning. I saw a lot of people scrambling to get quarterbacks to stream and start because, heck, out of nowhere, bam, Stafford's not playing. But Stafford's missing of the game did have a huge effect on Detroit. They did lose this one 13-20. Driscoll did draw the start for them, 269, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He did add 5 carries for 37 yards. If Stafford is out, all of the receiving core takes a step back. I would drop everybody down 1 wide receiver group. So Galladay, normally a wide receiver 1. I drop him down into 2. Jones, generally a 2. I drop him down into 3. Marvin Hall, I drop him down from 3 to 4. Amendola, I'd also drop down as well. He's not going to have a super PPR day that he would normally have with Stafford. Jones, 5 catches, 77 yards. Galladay, 3 catches, 57 yards and a touchdown. Amendola, 4 catches for 29 yards. So, like I said earlier, just kind of drop everybody down 1. If Stafford is out, everybody goes back to their normal if Stafford is in. Trubisky, 173, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Montgomery, 17 carries, 60 yards. Allen Robinson, 6 catches for 81 yards. Those are probably the only 3 that I would even mess with on this team. Tariq Cohen did have a reception for a touchdown today. He's going to be a super matchup-based player. Montgomery, you could start as a running back 3. Robinson, wide receiver 3. Trubisky, he's going to be right around that line of 2 and 3 as well, unfortunately. I'm just not a fan of the Bears because that offense is terrible as well, unfortunately. Alrighty, upset of the day. Yeah, Atlanta. I do not like it when you guys are ahead because Matt Ryan is my fantasy quarterback, and I love it when he has to throw the ball. When you guys are ahead, he does not throw the ball. So I want you guys to be coming from behind every game and not holding the lead, unfortunately. I'm selfish. What can I say? Atlanta, though, upset of the week, 26, New Orleans 9. Yeah, it just wasn't New Orleans' day, unfortunately. Coming out of the bye, they looked flat. It's just, yeah. Sorry, New Orleans. You guys were terrible today, except for Mike Thomas. He was really the only one that was good. But Matt Ryan, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I mean, even when they're not throwing the ball, he still has that 1 interception, of course. Minus 2 points right there. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you. But surprising, Devontae Freeman, 10 carries, 30 yards, no touchdowns, 3 catches for 10 yards. Did come up a little bit hobbled, left the game, did not play the rest of the game. So Hill came in, 20 carries, 61 yards, no touchdowns, 1 catch, 10 yards, and a touchdown. We'll talk about him a little bit more when we get into the waiver wire ads. Julio Jones, 3 catches, 79 yards. Calvin Ridley, 3 catches for 28 yards. Of course, this was all game script. If Atlanta plays like they have played all the rest of this year, at the start of the year where they're coming back, everybody else's numbers is going to be elevated. They still love to throw the ball, so Julio still a wide receiver 1. Ridley with Mohamed Sanu gone is going to be a low-end wide receiver 2. Freeman is going to be a running back 3. Hill will probably be if Freeman is out, a volume-based RB2 next week, just depending on the health, so monitor that. We'll talk about him a little bit more whenever we get into waiver wire ads. And then Hooper, 4 catches, 17 yards, and a touchdown. He did leave with a knee injury, so just monitor that. He is the best tight end in fantasy this year, so fire him up every week unless he is out. New Orleans side, not a good game. I wish you could get style points for Taysom Hill because, he's all over the place, but unfortunately you don't. Breeze, 287, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Kamara, his first game back, 4 carries, 24 yards. 8 catches for 50 yards. Latavius Murray, 5 carries, 12 yards, 2 catches for 7 yards. This was just game script. They abandoned the run pretty much from the beginning because they dug a hole from themselves. Kamara, running back 1. Breeze, QB 1. Murray, RB 3 going forward. Mike Thomas, though, best receiver in the fantasy this year. Wide receiver number 1 overall, so you have to fire him up. 13 catches. 152 yards, fastest player ever to 400 catches. So congratulations. It's taken you 56 games to get to 400 catches. It's taken Greg Olsen Greg Olsen's been in the league for 50 years now. Took him 50 years to get 700 catches. So heck, you're going to pass him next year apparently. And then Jared Cook, it's going to be your tight end 2, 6 catches for 74 yards. Now, a game that I really had no interest in, popped up quite a bit, though, on Red Zone. Arizona and Tampa Bay, it's just you would have 2 different games. You'd either have a shootout, which we got, or just a terrible offensive game where it's 10-7. Arizona, though, unfortunately lost this one 27-30. Kyler Murray, hell of a game. Still inconsistent as hell, but hell of a game this week. 324, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, added 3 carries for 38 yards. This guy is going to draw a lot of late hit penalties because when he is scrambling, since he has that baseball background, he can just get down like that. when he slides. Some of these quarterbacks, they kind of jump and go into their slide. No, he just gets right down like he's getting, trying to beat that ball to the base. So he's going to draw a lot of penalties. Unfortunately, it's not going to show up in the fantasy stat line, but real life, it's going to be a plus for them. David Johnson did look a little hobbled today. He didn't have too good of a game. 5 carries for 2 yards, 1 catch for 8 yards. Drake had a better game. Not much better, but, especially coming from last week against San Francisco, it was a huge disappointment. Drake, 10 carries, 35 yards, 6 catches for 6 yards. David Johnson might not play next week. I haven't seen any reports. Just he was real hobbled towards the end of that game. So I could see them sitting him again, especially if Chase Edmonds is back. But all 3 of these guys are going to be in the RB3 area, RB4 area. So I still wouldn't trust them. And I still want to say that, Arizona gets San Francisco next. I just want to say, I just hope it was a short week that, Arizona was able to get up on them because it was a short week. But I still want to say that San Francisco's defense is better than that. On the Tampa Bay side, Jameis Winston, 358, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 carries for 40 yards. And this might be the new norm for him. He hasn't had any super crazy 100 yards for 6 interceptions. So our quarterback 2 area, definite streamer option going forward. Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones, again, split work with the nod going to Jones. Both had a touchdown, so that's super nice. But Arians has said Jones is going to be earning more work because he's been doing so good. So he'll probably be that RB2, RB3 area, whereas Barber will be RB3, RB4. Barber, 11 carries, 43 yards, 1 touchdown, added 1 catch for 4 yards. Jones, 11 carries, 29 yards, 1 touchdown, but added 8 catches for 77 yards, which is pretty weird because coming out of college, they said he's not really the best pass-catching back. That was his knock on him all year last year. But he added 8 catches. So, he apparently learned how to catch the ball in a week. Who knew? Mike Evans, 4 catches, 89 yards. Godwin, 6 catches, 74 yards. Both wide receiver 1s. And, hey, too bad he's not on Andre's team anymore, but we had an O.J. Howard sighting. O.J. Howard. Can we say the juice? I don't know if that's allowed. Should we say the juice? I don't know. Maybe we should whisper about it. The juice had a good game. O.J. Howard, 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. I don't expect this again next week from him. And they get New Orleans. New Orleans got beat up. They're going to want to come back. Yeah, I just don't see it. He's been terrible this year because everybody drafted him, and he's just disappeared. And, heck, snow football exists again. This was a pretty fun game to watch, especially when they would go to the sideline camps. You could see all the snow before it actually showed up on the field. I always wanted to go to a game in Green Bay in December because just atmosphere. I don't care if my team's playing. I just think it would be a fun time to go to Green Bay in December in the freezing tundra and just watch a game in the snow. Always thought it would be fun to go. Maybe I'll go one time. Who knows? But Green Bay pulled this one out on he was short, unfortunately, but I would have loved to see Christian McCaffrey get that touchdown and try to go for 2. Green Bay won 24-16. Green Bay does go on a bye, so you're going to lose some pretty big players for your team. Carolina gets Atlanta. What the hell? Who Allen is this? This is Kyle Allen? No. There's too many freaking Kyles. You know what? No, way too many Allens, actually. Way too many Allens. It is Kyle Allen. I had to go check real quick because I didn't want to be that guy. I called Aaron Jones, Adam Jones. It's just, there's way too many Allens, though. Josh Allen, Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, Keenan Allen. There's another Josh Allen as a defense lineman. Way too many Allens out there in the NFL. It's not cool. Not cool at all, unfortunately. But Kyle Allen, with the more experience he has, the better he looked. 307 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 carries for 18 yards. Should have had another interception or 2. They were kind of dropped. Wet ball and all probably, or just DBs can't catch. That's why they're DBs and not receivers. I know I'm going to catch so much slack for that, but it was just DBs always said receivers are DBs who couldn't hit. Receivers always say DBs are receivers who couldn't catch. Just how it is. They always battle. It's a fun game. super fun. You love the competition, but Kyle Allen, the more he plays, the better he looks. There's reports that they're going to pick him over Cam next year, especially because Cam is going to cost them $19 million. So next year, I can see him being low-end QB1, high-end QB2, but right now he is more low-end QB2 because he's still more of a game manager because he's still learning. It's 8 starts in, 9 starts in. He's still learning the position. He's still learning how to play, but he's a decent streaming option. They get Atlanta next week, so I could see him go off, especially against Atlanta's defense, who's not too good. And it helps that he has the best player in fantasy football this year. The best. Christian McCaffrey. Unfortunately, Aaron Jones had another big game. We'll talk about him in a second to get him for the tie for most scrimmage touchdowns. But C-Mac, 20 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Should have been 2. I would have loved to have 2 for the fantasy purposes, but added 6 catches for 33 yards. He's on pace for like 400. And he's on pace to break not only the touches record, but also the fantasy points in a season record. He's on pace to beat LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 campaign where he had 31 touchdowns. His MVP year, he's on pace to beat LT's fantasy scoring record. In my mind, this guy's the football MVP. He's going to be the fantasy MVP as well. I mean, hell, if you got to start him, he is a running back, 1 overall running back. He leads the league in scrimmage yards, leads the league in scrimmage touchdowns. He does it all. Receiver-wise, I could see you playing all 3 of these guys. DJ Moore, probably high-end wide receiver 3. Samuel, probably mid to low wide receiver 3. Olsen is going to be in your higher tight end 2 area. But DJ Moore, 9 catches, 120 yards. Olsen, 8 catches, 98 yards. Samuel's 4 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown. So they're all right around, playable. But if you're probably playing somebody ahead of them, they're probably your, third receiver, your flex, your WR, WT area players. Rodgers, though, 233 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 carry for 7 yards. He is loving life right now because they have a run game and a pretty good defense. He's not asked to do a whole lot anymore. It's going to save them for when they come playoffs times, definitely, because he is going to have to play and he's not going to get old noodle arm in the playoffs for throwing the ball 700 times in the regular season. Definitely an RB1. Rodgers is a QB1. Jones, RB1. 13 carries, 93 yards. Count them, 1, 2, 3 touchdowns for the man. I was so pissed because I had to play Jamal Williams because James Conner was out and James White was on a bye. So I would have loved one of those touchdowns to go to Williams because I'm greedy like that, unfortunately. Everybody is in fantasy, but Jones, 3 touchdowns, 98 yards. He had a 3-touchdown game to bring him to a tie with Christian McCaffrey's 1-touchdown game for 14 total touchdowns on the year to lead the league in scrimmage touchdowns. Green Bay hasn't had their bye yet. They're going bye next week. So, of course, next week, more likely than not, Christian McCaffrey is going to have a touchdown or 2 to gain that lead again, and then they'll just battle it out for the rest of the year. Williams is going to be in your high-end RB3 area with the way that they use these guys. He can get into that low-end RB1 as well. Devontae Adams, welcome back. Now you're going bye, unfortunately. So you missed him for all those weeks. He was injured, comes back, kills it, bye week. Hate that. But 7 catches, 118 yards. If he's healthy, he's going to be a wide receiver 1. Period. No ands, ifs, or buts. Jimmy Graham, 2 catches, 59 yards. He's going to be your RB or your tight end number 2. streaming option, but they're on a bye next week, so it doesn't really matter. So let's hit a little bit of a bye. Let me look at the Sunday night game just because it just ended. Let me look at that, go over some stuff, and then I will be back right after a quick break. Well, I just want to say you're welcome, Kirk Cousins. You got the Slumpbuster boost because you're on an MVP candidate now that we told you suck. You won a game against a plus 500 team. Congratulations. You won a game on the road. Congratulations. You won on primetime where you will have a, I believe, 0-5,000 record. Congratulations. So Kirk Cousins won. The Cowboys lost. It is a good day. Good day because the Cowboys lost. 28-24 final score. Minnesota goes into Jerry World and beats the Cowboys. I mean, I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. I really don't love y'all. Y'all are probably the most annoying fans in the world, Cowboy fans. The most annoying. Kirk Cousins, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dalvin Cook, 26 carries. You are a man amongst boys, man. 97 yards, 1 touchdown, added 7 carries for 86 yards. Cousins, QB2, Dalvin Cook, RB1. I believe he's RB2 overall fantasy-wise. I don't know how my family let me get C-Mac and Dalvin Cook. Both of them. And I'm in first place. Sorry. Alexander Madison, still the number 1 handcuff because he's actually getting work where some of these other guys aren't. 8 carries, 52 yards. Should have had a touchdown. Got ruled down at the 1. They called it a touchdown on the field. Stephon Diggs with Adam Thielen out. You were supposed to have a big game. You did not. 3 catches for 49 yards. Look at this. Kyle, the touchdown Rudolph the Red-Nosed touchdown. Something like that. I forget your nickname, but you used to be like Kyle the Red-Nosed touchdown maker or something like that. I don't really remember. But 4 catches, 14 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Red zone beast back at it. So congratulations, even though you're probably, tight end 3. Diggs is going to be, unfortunately, wide receiver 3 with a ceiling of wide receiver 1. When Thielen comes back, he's definitely going to be a wide receiver 1. Dalvin Cook, running back 1. I mean, that's a man right there. Dak Prescott, 397, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's going to be a quarterback 2, quarterback 1, just because he can have big games, but he can also have games where he is just terrible. Ezekiel Elliott, 20 carries, 47 yards, no touchdowns. Added 2 catches for 16 yards, mostly bottled up on the night. He's still going to be an RB1 every week. Amari Cooper, 11 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown. He's going to be a wide receiver 1. Next 2 guys, Randall Cobb, 6 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Michael Gallup, 4 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. They're both going to be, unfortunately, wide receiver 4s. Michael Gallup being a higher wide receiver 4 than Randall Cobb, just because they're very inconsistent. But that's the Sunday slate of games. Let's get into these waiver wire because we have no more trades because trade deadline is over. Hopefully you made some trades to better your team. If not, it's just waiver wire pickups from here. Quarterback-wise, we got Foles coming back in a plus matchup. I like them. Carr and Darnold, they all have plus matchups with bye weeks, especially Aaron Rodgers is going to be out because bye weeks are going to be a killer. You have Giants, Then you have Green Bay on a bye as well. Tennessee is on a bye, and Seattle's on a bye. So all those guys, you're going to be losing, for sure your starters in Rodgers and Wilson, and then streamers in Tannehill, and Danny Dimes. But I could see all three of those guys doing pretty good. Brian Hill from Atlanta, probably going to be the number one ad of the week. Also, Darius Geis was just added onto the active roster for Washington, so I'll look for him to, starting to get into that mix where they're starting to phase Adrian Peterson out. Receiver-wise, N'Keal Harry is activated off of IR, and Will Fuller is going to be coming back from an injury after, hopefully next week. They're on a bye this week. Defensive-wise, you got the Jets and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has had some really good games this last, little bit of stretch there. Sneaky good. They've had a turnover, I believe, in every single game. They only allowed 4 points to the Rams today. So those would be my pickups for defenses. All righty. That's going to be it for me tonight. As always, follow us on Instagram, Slumpbuster Podcast. We have awesome memes, stories we show off when we go to games and whatnot. So follow us there. DM us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what we should change. Follow us on Twitter, Slumpbuster Pod, Slumpbuster FFB, Slumpbuster FFB every Sunday morning. We give you lineup question help, all that fun stuff. We also have the website, theslumpbuster.com, where we have our weekly rankings, articles, power rankings for not only the NFL, but the NBA as well. As always, we're on all major or almost all major streaming sites, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Hopefully we can get into iTunes and get some podcasting trophies. I know they have a podcasting award show coming up. But as always, like, share, review, subscribe, download, tell your friends about us, tell everybody about us. And then last but not least, always talk shit to your fantasy buddies, because honestly, that's what it's about. If you're not talking shit, why are you in the league? Our playoff push continues. I will see y'all next week. Have fun.